Hello and welcome back. In this episode, we're going to cover Grok 4.0. So, what we're going to do is take a look at how well it writes a book. So, in the past, utilizing Claude, I've written a book and I went through and I published it on Amazon and I just wanted to see how it would do. It wasn't to make some bestseller or anything like that, it was just to see if Claude could handle it and I could write a book. I tested it versus Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude was the clear winner at the time. So let's take a look at how well Grok writes a book. We're going to first go over some of the new features that I've seen in Grok that I hadn't either noticed previously in 3 or I haven't seen it ever before. Maybe it's new. I don't know. First thing I've got is the scheduled tasks, right? And let's take a look at that. Let's receive a daily tech digest or a daily stock trader, right? And I've got a couple shares here of NVIDIA and also Google. So let's take a look at this and let's put in a daily reminder of how well our stock is doing here. So let's take a look at that. Bitcoin's fine. Palantir. No, I don't own any of that, but I do own some NVIDIA. So let's take a look at that. Let's create an email plus an app, and we'll do it, let's say, noon every day. Let's just go at 12:55. Okay, create task, and voila, it gives me a stock update once a day via email. Okay, I can send a test. All right, let's see what it does after hours, see how well it handles it. Okay, still running. Let's see if it comes across my email. But while we're doing that, it should pop up on my email to tell me, hey, we've got a notification of what the price of Google is. We'll come back to that later. Let's go over here and let's act like we're going to create a new project. And let's give it some instructions. I'm going to give it the exact same instructions I gave Claude. We want to write a book. Basically, you are a New York Times bestselling author. And let's see how well you do here. Let's give it some instructions, right? Let's save that. Okay, let me give it the exact in the chat. Let me tell it exactly what I told it in the instructions and see how it starts to handle that. Okay, here we go. It's playing in our book structure. Okay, what I basically asked it was I said, I want to write a book on time management. It's about roughly 20 chapters. I want a little sub theme about Mark Twain quotes to start to open up every chapter with a Mark Twain quote just to see how it relates to modern day times. So here we go. It's proposing an outline, right? Book outline. There's chapter 1, thoughts for 10. Book outline. There we go. It's pretty good. It's pretty fast. The illusion of time. We start out with chapter 1. And basically what I did with Claude was I kind of spoke to it very similarly to this. And then what I would do is tell personal stories in every one. So the main chapters would, we'd talk about a personal story and then we'd kind of tie it back to time management. So with my book, what I did was I lost 120 pounds, and a key point of losing the 120 pounds was looking at time management just a little bit differently, right? You have to make time for exercise, of course. You have to make time for healthy decisions for eating. It just, you don't have any other choice but to do that. So, what I did was I focused on writing a book that was about time management and weight loss and how they kind of correlated between each other. Now, I didn't lose 120 pounds overnight. It took 5 long years. So it basically became a habit, right? So let's take a look at what the book says here. So here's our 20 chapter outline, right? We've got 20 chapters on time management, right? The illusions of time, understanding your most finite resource, right? Prioritization. Chapter 2 here, the art of choosing what matters most. Chapter 3, conquering procrastination, breaking the cycle of delay. Okay. There we go. The power of routines, building habits that save time. Right. There we go. Delegation and saying no, lightening your load. That kind of goes back to the Eisenhower matrix, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. Uh, and then technology as an ally, right? That's another resource. Mindfulness and motion, staying present amid chaos, work life balance, harmonizing demands, right? Goal setting, your path to achievement. Chapter 10 here is overcoming distractions. 11, time blocking. 12, the Pomodoro technique. Um, that's basically where you work for 20 minutes, you take 5 minutes off, or you don't take 5 minutes, you shift and you do something else like lighter work. 13, the rest and recharge. Financial time management, right? There we go. A little different twist there. Team time, managing group dynamics, kind of working on all your resources there. 16, adding to change, right? Learning from failure, legacy building. So it's kind of reaching here, right? I think it's reaching here. I mean, it's kind of losing topics here. I believe, right? Like talking about legacy building, um, sustaining momentum, avoiding burnout, timeless reflections, integrations. All right. Each chapter's 2 to 3,000 words. Okay, you're co-author, so hey, it's already taken credit for it. All right. Okay, so let's give it some different suggestions. Say, hey, all right, we'll tell it that's a good start. Okay. Uh, but I want to tweak some things, right? Um, let's see, in chapter 1, I want to start off with a story about I got a type 2 diabetes diagnosis about 5 years ago, and I knew it was time to make a change on how I utilize my time. Okay. Utilize my time. Okay. So we'll say, I wanted to kind of tell a backstory there. Let's say that. Okay, it's thinking, it's changing the chapter content, and then I'm going to also tell it I want to write about creation versus consumption, right? Now, one thing I noticed right away with this, and I think I can do it on the phone, is I don't see where the voice activation is, because this would be a lot better if I could just talk into it, but maybe I just don't know the product well enough yet. So let's talk about, I want to write about creation versus consumption, right? Uh, we are either using our time for creating or consuming. Too much of either is bad, right? We want nice balance. We probably need more creation than we do consumption, but hey, we certainly need to be able to relax on the weekends and have some sort of consumption. Otherwise, we'll go crazy. So let's tell it that. Write about creation is good for the brain. The brain and time management is critical, right? And we can lose time with too much consumption, right? i.e., video games, doom scrolling, right? Uh, what else? Phone, TV, right? There we go. So let's add that to it, right? Okay. All right. And once it's done with this, I'm going to say, give me the updated 20 chapters. Okay. Okay, there we go. That was pretty cool. It was talking about kind of tying stuff into Mark Twain right there. Remember that? That was really good because a lot of the other systems I'd have to go back and say, hey, don't forget to tie this back to Mark Twain, right? Okay, so there we go. There we go. It came up with its concept there for chapter X. Okay, now I want to say, give me, okay, there we go. Thought for 26 seconds and it did that chapter. Great. All right, let's say, give me an updated version of the 20 chapters. Okay. All right, so there we go. Give me the updated version of the 20 chapters. Okay. Let's see what it does. It's thinking. All right. While we're doing that, let's take a look at what it said here. Here's its sources, 42 different pages. That's pretty amazing. Might have to expand on that chapter a little bit. Looks a little short. Now, basically what I do is once we get kind of the book and what it looks like for all the 20 chapters, and I'm pretty happy with it, and I'd go back and forth and tweak it, I'd go back and write a personal story about every chapter that we're going to talk about, right? And then I would go back and banter back and forth with the AI and, add some statistics, add some data around my core stories. So to kind of give it more of a a textbook feel. So here we go. We start off with a Mark Twain quote, right? We go through here. It's talking about creation, right? In the theater of life, every tick of the clock casts us into two roles, creator or consumer, right? Goes right into that, right? Okay. There we go. It pulls up some research for us, goes out there, cites the sources, kind of talks about how creation is good for the brain, right? Looks pretty good. The siren of consumption. I was hoping it'd quote like Wall-E or something from Disney, where, the robots took over. All right. Then we got down here. Okay. So then we've got here, talks about wrapping it up with the endless Netflix marathon, right? Who pivoting to creation by writing a blog. There we go. And then it wraps it up with a Twain quote. Okay, now let's go check on this. It looks like we're kind of either hung up or it's kind of gotten lost. Let's try it. Let's try it again. Here. Okay. All right. Okay, still Grok 4. That's good. I've been in some AIs where it'll drop you down. Right, so let's try this again. It's thinking. There we go. Now let's see if it remembers chapter 1. There it goes. It talks about adding the story, the personal story, right? Let's see where it puts the creation versus consumption. There we go. It adds it in chapter 10. So it builds it right in, right? So it's obviously changing the book as we go, right? Uh, let's see. I see one thing that the book is clearly missing. It's the Eisenhower matrix, right? Uh, let's add a chapter on the Eisenhower matrix. Okay. And give me the new 20 chapters. Okay. All right. New 20 chapters. All right. Great. Now, what would be cool is I honestly, with the voice, how well this is working, I think I could be walking around the block and writing this. That's what's amazing, right? I know the voice feature works on the phone. Um, so I think that collaboration feature is going to be really cool. Right, there we go. Divides tasks, right? This is correct. It divides tasks into 4 quadrants based on urgency and importance. Do, decide, delegate, delete, right? This is made famous by Dwight D. Eisenhower. This was basically what he did every day of his life. He was just, he lived by this. So there we go. We're still working on it. There it goes, planning chapter placement. It's going back through the book. It's pretty amazing. I like this header feature that it kind of tells you what it's working on, right? Okay, and then after this, after we see the next 20 chapters, we're going to go ahead and have it start writing chapter 1 for us. Let's see how it does. Okay, there we go. Now we got the 20 chapters coming in, and right there, chapter 3, it's decided to add the Eisenhower matrix, right? Okay, great. Let's start writing chapter 1. Okay. Great. Write chapter 1. Okay. Okay. There we go. So we're going to have it now write chapter 1 of our book. And this is where we'll go in and we will work. See that? It automatically, chapter 1, it's checking back and it's going about the story of the diabetes. So that's great. Wow. Wow. Look at that. It's currently searching for the image, time management with health crisis. Isn't that cool? This is fantastic. No other AI has done this. This blows my mind. Where it could actually go and recognize. Earlier we talked about, type 2 diabetes, a personal story, right? And then it goes out and it says, "Hey, I'm going to go research type 2 diabetes and time management," right? And so here we got, this isn't a personal story. It's, this is saying Alex. And so let's change this, right? Now let's make it even more personal, right? Okay. Okay. So let's go and say, hey, here is a little more about my story. Okay. This is fantastic. I didn't give it much, right? And it's going off and it's building all this. It's amazing. This is light years better than the next closest AI for writing a book. This is incredible. This is a game changer. Here's a little more information, about my story for chapter 1. My name is Stan, not Alex. Right, let's see this. Okay, 5 years ago, I stood in my doctor's office 310 pounds. And I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Okay. Today, with my doctor's help, medicine, right? Time management, right? And a healthy diet and exercise routine, I I am currently 190 pounds. That that day in the doctor's office, I decided every day I was going to exercise. I was going to do cardio, weightlifting, and stretching for the and eat healthy for the rest of my life. Okay, that was non-optional. That was non-negotiable. Uh, let's see. Okay, so that was non-negotiable, and for the past 5 years, I have lifted weights, right? Lifted weights, done cardio, and stretched for at least 1 minute every day. Why 1 minute? Okay. Why 1 minute? Because sometimes you just have to get started. Okay. I'm not going to go through this in the rest of the video for every chapter like this. I'm just kind of showing you how we make a personal story, how we go back, and let's see how Grok 4 handles this personal story, right? See if it just, wraps your chapter around it and changes it. Sometimes you just have to get started. Have Mark Twain quote on getting started, right? There we go. Okay. So there's a personal story for chapter 1. Let's see how it reacts to it, and let's see. It wasn't the best English. I had misspellings. Let's see how it does. Okay. All right. Um, so I'm going to tell it. Please rewrite chapter 1 with with the new information. All right, there we go. So we're going to give it that new information, right? And, let's see what it does with it. Updating chapter details. Okay, this is really cool to me, right? Searching for a Mark Twain quote on getting started, right? There we go. And it's got 5 quotes right away, right? And it says it looks like what it's doing is it's confirming that the quote's actually right. So a lot of times on the other AIs, you'll see hallucinations. And it looks like what it's doing is it's getting 5 different sources to make sure, is this really a Mark Twain quote, right? Or, was this just made up by some guy? Is there some misinterpretations? Right there we go. There we go. And ironically, that is the quote in my book, right? I wondered if it would find it, right? The secret of getting ahead is getting started. Because a lot of times in life, that's just it. It's just getting started every day. So what I did to lose weight was, besides following my doctor's advice, healthy diet, I knew I had to add exercise, right? And so what I did was I was like, I can go to the gym every day for 1 minute, right? If I say I go for an hour, I would just not do it, right? I'm just like everybody else. But if I'm like, all I got to do is go 1 minute and I can leave, right? Well, 1 minute turns into 10 or 20 minutes, right? So that was the premise of it. And 10 minutes a day at the gym is 60 hours a year that I wouldn't have at the gym otherwise. So let's take a look at what it says. Imagine this, you're cruising through life. This is what happened to Stan, whose story, right? I could change that to me, right? Obviously, 5 years ago, Stan stood on the doctor's office weighing 310 pounds. When he was received a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, it wasn't a complete surprise, right? That's pretty close. Actually, there was no family history, ironically. But everything else was pretty much spot on. But like many of us, right? Work, family, that's all true, right? Started small, right? At least 1 minute. Sometimes you just have to get started, right? So for the blah, right? Today at 190 pounds, this is all true, right? And that's cool. It wraps it back to time management, right? Okay. So Stan's experience is not isolated. I think it's great, right? It's pretty cool. We got the statistics here, right? It's great. Amazing. Okay, so let's go on and do the rest of the chapters. Okay, give me chapter 2. Okay. Let's see what the more is, right? There we go. Export as a PDF, right? So if I want to take this out, great. Let's go on to chapter 2. Great. Show me chapter 2 of our book. Now, while we're doing this, I think what we can do here is let's start exporting PDFs, right? There we go. Okay, so there's our chapter 1. Okay, this is pretty cool as it's building this, right? There we go. So to change your life, you need to change your priorities, right? So there's our chapter 2. It's right in front of us. There it goes. Now, so we say great. Let's export this as a PDF. All right, there's one. Okay, great. Okay, now what I would do is if I was writing this book like I did the first time, obviously I wouldn't just go through this. It took me like 3 months the first time to write my book, but it was all new to me. Obviously, if I had to redo it, it'd be much quicker. And then I would also just run out of like tokens with Claude. So Claude was pretty difficult to write with because of, I just kept running out of tokens. This seems much better. I mean, at Claude, probably be pretty close to running out of tokens already for the day, and I'd have to wait like 3 hours to ask it, 5 more chapters. So great job. Okay, right chapter 3. Okay, and now you'll remember this is the one, I think it was the Dwight Eisenhower matrix. There we go. So right there we go. Starting us off with a Mark Twain quote, right? Great. There we go. That is so cool to me. This is awesome. Would you look at this? Show all 10, show all 14 sources. Look at that. Isn't that great? And it's done with chapter 3 already, right? Okay. Okay, this is pretty great. So let's see how it does. In the ceaseless tug of war between what demands our attention and what truly deserves it, the Eisenhower matrix stands as a beacon of clarity. Actually true. A simple yet profound tool forged from the wisdom of a wartime leader turned president named Dwight D. Eisenhower, who famously distinguished between urgent and the important. The matrix divides tasks into 4 quadrants: do, urgent and important; schedule, important but not urgent, right? Delegate, urgent but not important; and delete, neither. No is a complete sentence, right? And then it goes on to say, it's a framework that echoes Twain's caution against misplaced priorities, reminding us that squandering our time on others' whims or trivial urgencies leave little for our own aspirations, squandering our time on others' whims, right? So reads really well. But let's say, mm, let's say we want to take that down a level. Okay. Let's have it rewrite chapter 8 for high schoolers, right? High school educated individuals, right? Okay, let's make it middle school. Let's see how it reads for middle school, right? And let's see how it does, right? Because this may be too high, right? So let's see what it does. It's thinking, right? It's going to rewrite it for middle school readers, right? Oh, I told it chapter 8. Whoops. Should have been chapter 3. But ironically, it knows what chapter 8 is. That's pretty good. Okay. Okay. So we're going to chapter 8, right? Mindfulness and motion, staying present amid chaos. Right, there we go. There we go. It even talks about Jamie. So a middle schooler just like you. So references that. Words have definitely come down a bit, right? From the difficult pronunciations. Okay. That's interesting. All right. So, okay. So, let's have it rewrite chapter 3 for a high school reading level. Okay. All right. So let's see if it knows Dwight D. Eisenhower chapter, right? There it is. I'll keep it. It knows it's New York Times bestselling author. So, originally we told it to write like a New York Times bestselling author, and now it's basically saying it's going to kind of keep that format, as well as keeping it in mind that it's more towards high school education, right? Okay, so let's see what it'll change. So there we go. We got 9 sources. All right. It knew right away to go right back to the Eisenhower matrix, right? Now let's look at this. In a busy world we live in, it's easy to get pulled in different directions by things that seem important right now. But not everything that feels urgent really matters in the long run, right? So this is clearly writing it down towards a high school level, right? It's thinking, did it for 43 seconds, right? Great. It really looks like it's written for a high school educated person, right? That's great. Um, Fantastic. So now let's say that we're done with all 20 chapters. We've gone back, we've added our personal stories, and voila, it's ready to go. Okay. But we don't know what to do next. Let's ask it, if it can help us with publishing a book on Amazon, and let's see what it does. Because I know the answer to this. Um, how would I publish this book? In a physical form. Let's see, physical form at Amazon and a digital form on Kindle, right? Okay, and let's see if it tells us Kindle Direct Publishing, I think is what I did. There you go. So let's see what it tells us. So it's looking up the answers here. How do we write a book and publish the book, right? Shifts focus, it's browsing. There it goes. It's found KDP right away, right? Isn't that cool? So right there, it found KDP. It's browsing it right now, right? Right here. Kindle Direct Publishing. It just knew it, right? Now the others can't do this. This is like, it went right to the source. So it's getting information from that right there. It's getting the detailed steps for paperback. Yep. It's getting, look at that, 2025 paperback ebook publishing. Yep. This is all stuff I had to kind of find on my own. This is like really a high bar for others to catch for helping you write. It's really amazing. Oh, see, it said it might be right protected. Okay, for manuscript, marketplace, self-publishing. Okay. Yep, it found it. That's pretty amazing. Okay, these are the steps. It found everything correctly. That's incredible. So, yep, these are step by step. This is what the wizard does in Kindle Direct Publishing. It calls itself my co-author. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Okay, that's perfect. That's amazing. This part I had to do all my own research on, right? And this I had to do everything. Now I'm going to ask it one last thing. Okay, one last thing that I did was I took my book and I utilized AI Studio, and I'd have AI Studio read my book back verbatim, right? And I'd take those audio files and I would save it as a podcast. I'd put them all together using, video editing software, and I'd save the audio file and I uploaded it and I created a podcast out of it. Let's push the limits here and see what Grok 4 knows. Okay. Okay. If I want to have AI read my book in audio form and save the audio file and publish a podcast with my audiobook How would I go about doing this? Okay. So now this, if it finds AI Studio, I'd be shocked, but it'll probably tell us use something like 11 Labs and then how to use, the Apple Podcast Studio. Okay. So it's thinking, right? Save the audio. You know what I love to now, if I wanted to, I'd be like, before you answer my questions, ask me any questions that you may have. Um, you know, uh, that's the way Claude works, right? It just asks a ton of questions, which was good. You get better data, but this is just getting pretty close to perfect every time without asking questions, right? Okay, here we go. So, right, it went right back to Levin Labs, Speechify, Murph AI, right? I'm going to ask it if I had to do it for free, right? Publish the audiobook on Audible via ACX, right? There you go. Launch as a podcast. Oh, I guess podcast could be on Spotify, but it did get Podcast Connect. That's what I used. Okay, great. That's great. Now let's ask it. Okay, that I'll tell it. That is great. That is great. That's great. And um, let's see. But I want a free way to um, create audio. How would I accomplish this for free? There we go. How would I accomplish that? Okay, let's see if it could figure out a way I could do it for free. Because 11 Labs does cost, right? Searching for free options. Okay. All right. Now let's see if it can go a roundabout way. And I'm kind of curious if I tell it, hey, this is what I did. I knew the answer, right? Will it somehow remember it in the future? There you go. Searching for free op. Okay. Okay. It says we can do 11 labs for 10,000 characters, right? It's also, well, it's searching GitHub. Look at that. That's pretty cool. It It's smart enough to know, go to GitHub. It's looking through the README at GitHub. Ebook to audiobooks, README failed. It's going back to the GitHub page. That's interesting. Okay. Okay. Here. Okay. So let me talk to Grok here and tell it I know a good free version. Okay, Grok. I was able to do this for free by utilizing AI Studio google.com and asking it to read my chapter verbatim like a narrator audio, like an audio narrator. Okay. like an audio narrator. Okay. And I'm just going to tell it to remember this for the future. All right. Let's see what it does. Okay. So I guess I didn't tell it what part I was able. Well, considering user input. All right. There we go. That's pretty good because this is kind of interesting. Wow. So I told it to read it like an audio narrator, right? But what I didn't tell it was when I told Gemini to do it on or AI Studio to do it, I actually told it to pause, timed pauses. And what's amazing to me is if you look at down here at Grok 4, look at this. It says, your revelation about harnessing Google AI Studio for free verbatim audio narration is a stroke of genius. Pat on my back. I like that. A perfectly timed pause in the rush of creation allows our words to breathe life through sound, right? And so it's kind of talking as a narrator, you utilize the pauses, right? And that's what AI Studio did, and it was great. Okay, Maximi, and it kind of wraps it all back, continues to tell me I'm great or whatever, but it's pretty interesting. Um, Okay, so it says it'll be interesting. I will, let's see. Here we go. Great. It signs off as my co-author. I think we've done great. Shall we integrate the new chapter on Technology Ally or press on to chapter 4? Well, so here we go. Okay, right. Okay, right chapter 4. Okay, there we go. Chapter 4, let's see what it does. The next chapter, we all deal with procrastination, right? It's citing, it's pulling up 15 different resources there, 15 resources there right away. And boom, thought for 23 seconds, wrote the chapter. Okay, I want to ask it some questions about this. How many words are each of our first 4 chapters? Okay, so let's see if it can actually go through there. This was difficult for Claude to do, right? So it's going through, it's clarifying the question about we've written. Okay, we're gonna get hung up. Let's see, it's doing the math. Hopefully it's doing the math. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Hope it doesn't stop. We haven't had it stop yet. It's been pretty amazing, pretty rock solid. I'll tell you. Hey, if you like this video, please like and subscribe down below. I'd love to have you look at my future work. We're gonna continue cranking this stuff out every day. I don't know, maybe we didn't get it done. I think it's still going. Oh, seems like I spoke a little too soon, maybe. It says thinking. Oh, well, look at that. That's pretty cool. Wow. Wow, is that nice. Wow, I was just expecting a small thing, and it wrote this beautiful word count. That's a little short for chapters. We would definitely have to expand on this just in case anybody's wondering. I mean, total quartet, we're at 3,000 words. That's, roughly. But what's pretty cool is you look up here, right? That doesn't show it. Copy the table. It showed the code that it was working on for that table. Oh, there it is. Code execution. Look at that. That is really cool. So what this is doing is it actually wrote a little program, right, in Python, right here. Isn't that awesome? It tells you all the code. That is so neat, right? And then look what it does down here. It writes the Python code, right, to count words. And it creates these, what it called chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it knew the function. Isn't that cool? Right? Oh, that's fabulous. Anyhow, this thing blows my mind. I could have saved so much time writing with Grok 4 compared to Claude. So, but at the time, 9 months ago, Claude was the latest and greatest for this. And would you look at this? I think we're just gonna keep seeing these AIs just pass each other one after another. But anyhow, hey, thanks for tuning in. Once again, like and subscribe down below. And if you've got any questions, feel free to put comments in down below and I will answer them. All right. I appreciate it. Until tomorrow, take care. Thank you. Goodbye.